Back in the day, when Christianity ruled in Europe, religious leaders were like the cool shepherds guiding their culture. Think of them as the pastors, like in Protestantism. But as modernization kicked in, it brought an end to the Christian era, and guess who stepped up? Western philosophers, my friend. They took over the reins and became the ones shaping their culture. It was like the rise of the age of philosophy, and things haven't been the same since. While ancient Greece had philosophy, it was religious thought that defined the history of Europe from ancient times up to the modern era. Europeans only began to use philosophy to articulate the truth of values, in the way the Chinese have traditionally done, in the modern era. Since Western modern philosophy has been a rational system of knowledge, when Western philosophers took up the role of priests for modern culture, their efforts to construct a value rationality for human social life have constituted the main task of Western philosophy in the modern era. Remember what I said at the start of today's lecture? Well, here's the deal. This whole task of constructing rational values without considering real-life situations? Yeah, it's a mission impossible. It's like chasing after empty rationalism, no roots, no substance. All you end up with are super abstract moral principles that don't really mean much in practice. Let's take Kant as an example. He came up with these 4 key questions, but they're so darn abstract that they don't actually help you navigate real-life situations. You can't just go around living your life based on these high and mighty abstract moral principles. It's just not practical, my friends. Alright, let's get real here. In European modern times, the whole social and cultural scene has been dominated by Eurocentrism, self-interest, and an unquenchable thirst for owning stuff. And guess what? It's given capitalism free rein to run the show and mess with our lives. Yeah, capitalism, with all its contradictions, is calling the shots and calling the shots hard. It's shaping how we live, my friend, whether we like it or not. Even the big-shot European thinkers admit that Europe has gone down the rabbit hole of rootless rationalism and lost its spiritual home. I'm not here to criticize them as a Chinese person, these are their own remarkable thinkers speaking up. Remember Nietzsche? That dude boldly proclaimed that God is dead, and he wasn't just talking about the Christian God. He meant the whole shebang, the absolute idea and spirit of Hegelian philosophy. Then we got Heidegger, the heavyweight philosopher from 20th century Germany, a real existentialist, even though he denied the label. But let's be real, he's one of the OG founders of existentialism. Heidegger straight up said, Europeans have become homeless. He laid bare the nihilism that's been creeping in European civilization since modern times. All of this tells us that trying to construct a rational framework divorced from real-life experiences is setting us up for rootless rationalism. It's like building a house without a solid foundation, When modern Western civilization goes haywire and leaves people feeling lost and soul-sick, what can they do? And guess what? Us Chinese folks aren't immune either. We've caught the modern bug spread by European civilization. So, what's the remedy? There's only one way out, we gotta turn back to ancient thoughts and wisdom. We've got 4 choices, right? Ancient Greece, ancient China, ancient India, and ancient Israel. It's time to tap into that ancient wisdom to cure what ails us. Listen up, folks. If we want to rebuild the meaning and ideals of modern life, we gotta give props to the wisdom of the past and have some real talk with people from different ethnic backgrounds. It means recognizing that each group brings their own unique values to the table, creating a beautiful mosaic of cultural diversity. You can't just cram all those diverse values into one universal standard, thinking it'll solve everything. That's just wishful thinking, my friend. We can only rebuild the meaning and ideals of contemporary life by embracing and celebrating our differences. Contemporary philosophy is all about having conversations that bring together the wisdom of different ethnic groups. Who knows? It might spark the birth of new religions or push a specific ethnic group to explore uncharted philosophical territory. We can't say for sure. But here's the big idea: philosophy packs a punch because it gives us a pure way to express our boundless thoughts. It's where practical art and religion meet the infinite mind. So, let your mind run wild, my friend. Alright, let's dive into the fourth point. We're talking about how the Chinese nation is all about genuine philosophy. Here we are, starting this Introduction to Philosophy course, and guess who's leading the way? It's the Chinese people teaching and learning about philosophy. We're the ones getting into deep conversations and dialogues about all things philosophical. So, let's shine the spotlight on the Chinese people and their love for philosophy. So, remember when I said the Chinese nation isn't big on organized religion? Does that bum us out? Well, if we were a religious bunch, we could tap into that spiritual mindset and aim for higher values beyond the everyday grind, rise above that dusty dust of reality and chase after those mind-blowing ideals. But here's the thing: just because we don't have organized religion doesn't mean we lack that drive. Nah, we've got philosophy, my friends. It's our ticket to something greater. In this crazy world full of knowledge and all sorts of stuff, let me drop a truth bomb on you: our souls can't find true peace. Yeah, you heard me right. Without reaching for higher values beyond what's real, our hearts stay all jumbled up. Trust me, trying to find comfort by diving deep into economics, management science, journalism, law, or any other field won't do the trick. It's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. It just doesn't work, my friend. The human heart has this infinite side, a side that goes way beyond what we can see and touch. It's where the real juice of life resides. But here's the deal: if we're talking about finding peace and purpose, don't expect science to do all the heavy lifting. Nah, science ain't gonna give you the answers to life's big questions. Our real headache is trying to figure out why the heck we're here in the first place. So, where does the human heart find solace? It's in that spiritual mindset, in chasing after values that go beyond this world. That's where it can finally kick back and relax. When you compare the Chinese nation to those religious folks in Western Europe, you'll see that we're more about living in the present, focused on the practical stuff. We've got that worldly spirit in us. So, it might seem like we don't really give a hoot about some fancy schmancy spiritual realm. But hang on a sec, don't go thinking that means Chinese people don't have a thirst for higher values beyond what meets the eye. Let me tell you, all of us humans have these wild hearts that crave something more than just the everyday grind. And guess what? The Chinese nation is right there in the mix, chasing after those bigger dreams too. Chinese philosophy takes this whole soul-boosting pursuit and puts it right into the realm of deep thinking. The goal? Elevating your inner self, and let me tell you, that's different from some Western philosophies. Take ancient Greek natural philosophy, for instance. It wasn't all about boosting the soul. Socrates brought that to the party later on. But Chinese philosophy? Oh, it's all about bringing those high values into everyday life, making them real and tangible. It's like finding the sweet spot between the spiritual and the worldly, going beyond while still embracing the real world. And let me tell you, that's no walk in the park. In simple terms, it's like blending idealism and realism. Idealism is all about reaching for the stars, chasing higher values that go beyond the ordinary. That's the name of the game. But here's the thing: if it gets too disconnected from the nitty-gritty of human existence, Chinese philosophy ain't too keen on that. The spirit of embracing the world is rooted in realism, my friend. And throughout its history, Chinese philosophy has always been about finding that harmony between the idealistic and the realistic. It's like the yin and yang of deep thoughts, you know? Chinese philosophy tackles a big question, no doubt about it. It's all about bringing together the best of both worlds, merging the spiritual and the everyday into one beautiful blend. That's the heart and soul of Chinese philosophy, its very reason for being. And here's the kicker: when a nation, like China, moves away from religion, now, keep in mind there might still be a few folks who are devout believers, but as a whole, the nation doesn't have that religious vibe. So, when a nation ditches religion, it risks losing out on those higher values, unless it finds something else to fill the void. Lucky for us, there's philosophy, my friend. It's like a backup plan, giving us another path to explore those big questions outside of religion. Chinese philosophy ain't all about digging into epistemology or cosmology like some fancy-pants stuff. Nah, it's all about getting down to the nitty-gritty of life itself. That's the real deal. In Chinese philosophy, life takes center stage, my friend. Now, why not focus on the cosmos, you ask? Well, here's the scoop: the universe is like the backdrop to our human existence. We don't need to ditch life to go on some wild goose chase pondering the mysteries of the cosmos. Trust me, it's not that thrilling. And as for epistemology, well, knowledge is just a tool to help us reflect on life. It's not the be-all and end-all. Chinese philosophy sees knowledge as a means to contemplate life, to reach deeper insights and elevate our souls. It's all about getting in touch with the big picture. That's why Chinese philosophy didn't go all gung-ho developing a separate field like logic, like those Western philosophers did. The credit for the first complete system of logic? That goes to Aristotle, my friend. Hey, just so you know, Chinese folks ain't clueless when it comes to logic. In the vibrant mix of the 100 schools of thought, 6th to 3rd century BCE, there's this crew called the School of Logic, also known as Mingjia. And guess what? They're all about logic, baby. Their name gives it away, they're into dissecting the principles of names and concepts. This school of logic is totally dedicated to logic, knowledge formation, and methods. But here's the thing: they never really hit the big time as the popular kids in Chinese philosophical thought. They're like that one niche group doing their own thing, you know? When Chinese folks get into deep discussions about concepts and how they relate to each other, it's not just some logic party we're throwing. Nah, it's all about serving the real deal, life itself. Yeah, you can argue all day about white horses and black horses, and it may sound like a logical puzzle. But guess what? The whole point is to connect it back to the real world we live in. Our discussion of concepts and the relationships between concepts is rooted in real life and real society, rather than being purely a matter of logic itself. This differs from the perspective of Western thinkers. From this perspective, the Chinese nation can truly be considered a nation of genuine philosophy. Because philosophy cannot simply remain a categorical system or abstract theory. Our understanding of philosophy must fully utilize our capacity for rational thinking. However, what we gain from studying philosophy is not just an improvement in our mode of thinking, but more importantly, an elevation of our spiritual realm. This is why we should reverse the order of the two Chinese characters which are the traditional translation of the English word philosophy. Xue rather than Zhe. Learn the application of philosophy to nourish your life, rather than study philosophy as an academic discipline. In China, studying philosophy ain't meant to be some fancy profession. It's something that's meant for all of us. Yeah, even kiddos start diving into philosophy from a young age. Remember the 3-character classic? It's like a cool book for kids that teaches them how to read and also lays down the basics of deep thinking. Now, the first line of that classic goes like this: at the start of life, human nature is all good vibes. It's a deep philosophical idea, straight from the mind of Mencius. So, here's the deal: studying philosophy shouldn't be about chasing a career path. Sure, in universities, they have departments like the Department of Philosophy. They even have subfields like Western philosophy, Chinese philosophy, Marxist philosophy, and philosophy of science. Yeah, they might make you take those courses, but let's be real, they can be a bit of a snooze fest. But hey, philosophy itself? It's for all of us to explore and enjoy. You know what's messed up? Philosophy seems to be this fancy thing that only experts get into. It's a sorry state of affairs in the academic world, my friend. All these super specific branches of philosophy just make people close-minded. Imagine going to a philosophy department and asking about Hume, and the professor goes, "Nah, I don't do Hume. But if you want to chat about ideology, I'm all ears." It's actually pretty funny. But here's the thing: philosophy isn't some exclusive club or a bunch of specialized knowledge. It's about nurturing your soul, a way of thinking and approaching life's big questions. It's like how folks in the West go to church and Chinese peeps study philosophy. It's just how things roll. No need to make it all complicated and restricted to the pros.